Can I have your attention, please? Start making your way over this direction, please. Yes. Mike. Thank you, everyone. We appreciate everybody being here. Everybody in the back, come join us, please. Thank you. This is Mike Hickman, and I'm Mike being here on this great occasion. It's been a tough year. 2020 was a tough year. Let's one of the better year. Our thanks here to Josh Wilson, FloridaHighSchool.org, for streaming this all over the world and his work he does for high school football. Thank you so much. We're going to each inductee alphabetical order. Please, the inductee and the immediate family come in initially. When I'm in, then we'll let everybody else go in. Inductees, please go to your tables and stay people in your area. The board member is going to take you in, will show you the tables that you have. Okay? And once again, it's so good to have everybody here. Our first inductee, Mr. Bob Bowman. Just a immediate family. You are. Next up, Mr. Dan Deering. Mr. Mike Kypress. Get their tickets. If you didn't get one from your inductee, you can get it over here at the table because they are collecting them at the door. Mr. Sam Sirianni. And Mr. Andy Warner. Oh, there you go. Hello, everybody. I have your attention real quick. We've already started eating our salads and so on. Once again, we're so glad to have all of you here. We do have some festivities in a few moments, and then we'll get to our meal and start induction, of course. At this time, I'd like to bring up Tammy Talley, our immediate past president, who will give our welcome.
Good afternoon. It is an honor and a pleasure to give the opening remarks for our 45th annual Hall of Fame induction ceremony. Although our executive director, Shelton Cruz, and his wife, Dawn, cannot be here in person, they are here in spirit and watching us live via YouTube thanks to Josh Wilson and the Florida High School football. Yes, this pandemic shut down a lot of things this year, but Shelton and our entire FACA Board of Directors made sure this ceremony took place today, no matter what. I am Tammy Talley, past president, and I offer a sincere welcome to our Hall of Fame inductees, their families, friends, and those watching from home, as well as the board members and the coaches of the Florida Athletic Coaches Association. The list of accomplishments are astonishing, and we are very proud to honor you all today. I am glad that in the FACA Hall of Fame, we have this vehicle for remembering your excellence. It is character as much as knowledge that make these Hall of Fame coaches who they are. This year, the FACA is made up of almost 6,000 individual members and close to 300 school memberships. This is the 45th induction class that includes 274 members of the Hall of Fame. Today, we will honor 5 of the very best coaches in the state of Florida, and we are ensuring that their feats will always be remembered. At this time, I would like to introduce our second vice president, Coach Tim Tharp, who will do the introductions.
Thank you and welcome. Congratulations to all the inductees. Each year we like to recognize past inductees from each class that is attending with us today. So when I call your name, if you would please just stand so we can recognize and honor you, and we appreciate you being here. From the class of 1990, Don Prokes. Don, in the back. Thanks for coming. From the class of 2000, Harry Howell. Harry Howell in the back. Thanks, Harry. From the class of 2001, Ed Kirshner. Ed Kirshner, is he here today? He said he was going to be here. That's right, he still gets a round of applause. The class of 2010. Okay, I'm going to try it, Leo. Leo Madrigal. Leo Madrigal, stand right here. From Miami Killian High School. 2011, we have 2 inductees that are here with us today from South Fort Myers, Joe Hampton. And from Brooksville, Hernando, John Palmer. 2012 inductee from Tallahassee, Florida High, Mike Hickman. 2013 from Cocoa High School, John Wilkinson. From the class of 2016 from Lake Wales High School, Rod Schaefer. 2 inductees from the class of 2017, first from Naples High School, Bill Kramer. And from Fort Myers High School, Stephanie Martin. Last but not least, my buddy in the back, last year's class 2020, Steve Ripley, St. Lucie West Centennial High School. Welcome everybody, congratulations to the inductees. and I will hand it over to John Wilkinson. Thank you.
I'd like to welcome everybody here. If we could stand up and say the Pledge of Allegiance, that would be great. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'm going to pass it on to Coach Kramer, who's going to do our invocation.
Thanks, John. Let's pray. Father God, thank you for today. Thank you for everyone here and the blessing that it is to be able to get together. Thank you for sport and how it brings our communities together. Father God, I pray you would bless this time, that it would honor you and honor those that we are inducting today. And I pray for those at home and here that we would be joyful and thankful and have an attitude of gratitude for all that is good in our lives. Please bless this food and those who prepared it, this banquet and all the things involved. Bless those that prepared that for us as well. We ask this in your Son's name. Amen. Let's eat.
Neglected to mention the guy who is putting the entire presentation on today. In Shelton's absence, I think I'm going to be demoted through the organization, but I will take whatever demotion gladly. Mike Knowles, the class of 2005, Bradenton Manatee High School. And so I don't mess it up again, is there anybody in the room that's been a previous inductee that I have missed on my list? Okay, thank you for your attention. Enjoy the afternoon.
And continue your meal. If you need to go to the restroom, please do so. And in a few minutes, don't forget to turn those phones off. Thank you. Once again, hello everybody. Thank you so much for being here. Before we get to the inductions of our Hall of Famers, we do have some other awards and some recognition and so on. At this time, I'd like to ask Mr. John Palmer to come up to give his father's award. Thank you.
Excuse me. Glad to see everyone. It's good to be out and here in Daytona. I'd like to congratulate all of the Hall of Fame members first and foremost, and again send out a we miss you, Shelton. I know it's being live streamed, so I'm going to get brownie points when we can. I want to introduce Avery LaFels. Avery is representing the Florida dairy farmers who also support our awards program with FACA. For the last 15 years, the FACA, along with the Florida Dairy Farmers Association, has annually presented this award. It is my privilege to present to Bill Kramer the Doug Palmer Lifetime Achievement Award. This award represents a retiring football coach who has devoted his career not only to coaching and developing young people, but also promoting and improving the Florida Athletic Coaches Association. Coach Kramer exemplifies every area that I've just talked about. Bill has always had success, 2 state titles, 236 victories, all right? He's a member of the FACA Hall of Fame, the Florida High School Athletic Hall of Fame. He served on numerous boards, both in our state and nationally, coached in all-star games in our state and nationally, and I can think of no better recipient for this award than Bill Kramer. Bill, if you'd come up.
Do you want to stand in it? Or? Okay. I'm not sure how that picture went. Okay, I have a quick couple thank yous. This is very humbling. Doug Palmer was the head coach of football when he was 19 years old, youngest ever in the history of the FHSAA. He coached 33 years, won 5 state championships, never had a losing season. I am sure I don't deserve this award relative to that standard. The rest of the standard, this legacy, it's a father, son in the Hall of Fame and guys that have raised young men using football as a tool. That's always been my goal. I also want to thank the dairy farmers. I want to thank the FACA for this award. I hope that I can say something in a few moments, somebody get a nugget that will stick with you. First, I want to thank my daughters, Katie, Courtney, Kelly, and Cassie's here. The 3 older girls aren't, for being on mission with me and understanding the hours that Dad was going to work. Mostly, I want to say this plaque should have my wife's name above it, above mine. I can't tell you how many pregame meals she's cooked. She did all of it. I can't tell you how many times, once a week kids are eating at our house or players come to the house to eat. She takes care of that. All the vendors, recruiters, coaches, families she served. Not to mention all the stuff she had to do because I was breaking down film or chasing a kid down who had made a bad choice. I love my wife, and I'm grateful to you, Susie. Now more than ever, we need sports, folks. Now more than ever. Sports is perhaps the last area in our culture that brings us all together. It's a microcosm of what is good and what is possible. When you're looking in the huddle, and I don't care what the sport is, when you're looking in the huddle, and it's crunch time especially, nobody cares what your socio-demographic is. Nobody cares what side of whatever line you're on. All they care is that you are in it with them 100%, and I'm in it with you 100%, and we're going to get this thing done. That's the best of us. We are rooting and pulling for each other. In short, we are loving each other. I'm going to sacrifice me for you. That's why I love football. I think football is the greatest sport ever invented by man because of the offensive line. These guys go out there and they never hear their name mentioned unless they jump off sides. It's the only sport with an implement that by design, there's a group of people that never touch it. They don't get to touch football by design. Talk about selflessness and sacrifice. And by the way, I said this here, I figured out when our football team was really good was when our backup offensive linemen had hot girlfriends. I'm like, man, we've arrived, y'all. We have arrived. I keep quotes to motivate me around my desk. And one of the newer ones by Thoreau, when we had success, it said, what a man gets when he's achieving his goals is not as important as what a man becomes when he's achieving those goals. And I think there's a whole lot of folks that need to understand that thing you think you want is not nearly as important as how we're behaving and how we go about getting it. Thankfully, these coaches in this room, these that we're inducting today, they represent the best of us. This award represents the best of us. I want to do all I can to continue to honor this award and how I behave. I'm going to leave you with one of my life verses from Galatians 6:9. It says, let us not grow weary in doing good, for in due time we shall reap if we faint not. And all that really means is, hey, let's just keep doing the right thing, man. Like I know it stinks right now. This is hard or it hurts or whatever. But let's just keep doing the right thing, and it's going to pay off in the end. That's a promise. Thank you, and God bless you.
Thank you, Coach. Prior to Sheldon becoming our executive director, Wink Barnett was in that position some 30 years. Coaches in this room like me, been around for a long time, remember Wink, what a great person he was, what a great leader. And we honor him every year with selecting the Wink Barnett Award for a coach that has given exemplary service to the FACA for a long period of time. Unfortunately, our two recipients are not here today. I do want to have you recognize Jim Donovan of Jacksonville and John Hammontree of Miami. We were talking at my table a while ago about what wives do and how important. I came across a phrase when I was watching a television station out of California where some underprivileged kids in big cities that were gifted intellectually were going through a program. And they're saying, I wish I'd have saw this 40 years ago coaching. You coaches in here, maybe you can use this sometime. I am because we are. And for me, that's a perfect example of what I can say about my wife sitting right over there. I am because we are. Thank you. All coaches have been around for a long time will tell you they gain great strength from their families, from the community, from their coaches they work with. We lost 5 of those great coaches this year. They are Kerry McDonald, who was part of the very first class, Hall of Fame class in 1977, Billy Wilson, class of 1995, Steve Harden, class of 2002, Corky Rogers, class of 2003, and Frank Permy, class of 2009. So keep them in your prayers and their families, please, as we go forward. Now, it's time to smile and laugh and have a good time. When I say your first name, or Mike does, inductee, please get up and start walking toward here, and we're going to say a few things about you. as we do every year, we contact our inductees and ask them, tell us a story. Tell us something about yourself that you're not going to necessarily talk about in your speech. And then please, inductees, when you get up here, please speak 5, 6, 7, 8 minutes or so, because there's somebody else behind you, and a lot of people have a long way to go. When we are finished, I'll remind you, we're all going to come over here to the side. We have some other gifts for you to take home, and we'll take some pictures. I'm sure Tammy will be over there taking pictures to send in to our website. Bob Bowman, it's your time. Bob comes from a family as coaches. His father coached him in baseball. His grandfather, what a resume for his grandfather, for him to have to look up to. He was a trainer for the St. Louis University for 51 years, trainer for the St. Louis Brown Baseball Club, which became later known as the St. Louis Cardinals. Bob's grandfather is in the National Athletic Trainers Hall of Fame, Missouri Sports Hall of Fame, Greater St. Louis Athletic Hall of Fame, and St. Louis University Hall of Fame. This is just a pretty good start here, Bob.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, Mike. Thank you, Leo, for walking me in. Thank you as well. We appreciate everybody being here today. I want to thank my friends and family for attending. Thanks, Steve Ripley, for also walking me in today. Shelton, just a shout out to you and your wife. We miss you, wish you were here, and hopefully you'll get through this real quick. And I want to thank all the members of the FACA. I don't know if you're aware, I'm a lawyer. So, lawyers, we like to talk. So 5, 6, 7, 8 minutes. Good luck with that. But I'm now a judge. So judges, we have to be concise and precise. So you're lucky, because I don't think I'll go past that 8 or 9 minutes. Really, to me, this is one of the greatest things, and I want to congratulate all the other inductees. I mean, this is a great honor. It's kind of the culmination of our coaching career. And as I went through the years and we had success, I always thought, if I ever get this moment, the most important thing to me is thanking all of those that have allowed me to reach such an achievement. So I'll kind of go through the thanks. My JV coaches over the history, Kyle White, George Clamp, Kenny Castellano, Bill Burton, Josh Kristowski, Primo, also known as Edwin Racinos. My coaches, goalkeeper coach Kevin Keelan, John Vila, John Lacey, Steve Lindsay, Drew Griffin. Drew Griffin won an FACA Assistant Coach of the Year award. He implemented the foundation of our system of play of soccer that resulted in 7 state championship games from 1995 to 2001. Resulted in 5 state titles and culminated with a national championship. So I'm forever grateful to Drew and his input. We try to get him back. He moved on to bigger and better things, but he was wonderful. And then we also had the current coach, Eric Sims, who was on our my first state championship team in 1995 and was there on the sideline with me when we won our national championship in 2001. I want to say thanks to all our team moms, Mrs. Hatchie, Debbie Cole, Marlene Scardino. It's a long list, I'm sorry. Kathy Smith, Miss McCormick, Miss Keller, Jeanette Miller, Miss Maloof, Miss Gebhardt, Rosalie Yano, Annie Clausen, Patty Hartledge, Boo Danner, who's now my biggest fan, wasn't when her son was at our school, but now that I'm a judge and can't coach him, I'm her biggest fan. She's my biggest fan, something like that. Anyway, these women just put together everything to make the job of coaching easier for me, whether it was putting together schedules, rosters, putting together programs, having team meals ready to go, setting up the schedules for travel. They were absolutely wonderful. We held for, I think it was 17 years, a national invitational high school soccer tournament that would be right before Christmas. And we had some of the worst weather. I remember one night my binder at 6 o'clock was already had frost on it, and we were playing the 8 o'clock game and didn't leave till after midnight. But sure enough, we had the backbone of our program, our team moms. They were always there willing to help. Next, the players. I mean, it would take me forever to list all the players we had. We had great talent, no doubt. Several players of the year, FACA players of the year, Florida Dairy Farmers winners, and thank you for your support, Florida Dairy Farmers. We were blessed with many, many great players. But, you know, the bottom line is, and I told my parents at the start of the season, once we picked our team, we had a covered dish dinner. I'd let the parents eat first at that, and I told the varsity team they had to wait. But the thing was, I always told them, I said, look, you send your child to this school for the purpose of becoming an adult, a young man, a responsible adult, disciplined, and that's one thing that we never really suffered. We always had great players with discipline, but we also told them academics first, because to me, if you can't do the academics, you're not going to play. And that was the biggest thing I learned, thanks to my mom and my dad, that it was all about academics first. And if you went to Jesuit for soccer first, chances are you didn't graduate from Jesuit, which is sad, but I found out to be true. But we're fortunate. We were just loaded with great players. I kidded some of my friends that now most of them have, if they didn't play college, they went to undergraduate at Florida and Vanderbilt and Emory, and then they graduated. And a lot of them are community leaders in Tampa, and a lot of them are doctors. So I have almost a doctor for every part of my body, which is great to know. I have a dermatologist, I have a heart surgeon. I'm in pretty good shape. But very fortunate to have so many great players. One of them, Chris Harkness, made it here today. I know some others are watching the streaming today. I'm forever grateful for all of their efforts, all of the times they had to do sprints, all of the times they had to run soccer miles. But the bottom line was that they succeeded not just on the field, but off the field. And that's what makes me even more proud. In addition, the support I have from my mom and my dad, from probably the most cherished person over my entire legal career as well as coaching career is my assistant Deborah Stante. She's here with her husband Don, and the things she had to go through to try to keep me on time, in line, going to the right place at the right time. Oh yeah, and then there was the legal work on top of that. She did everything that could possibly be asked and then some. Also, Martha Minahan knows that, it was Bill Minahan that hired me. One of the people that was there game in, game out was Joanne Stocker. She was just so supportive. She was there for tickets, whether it was raining in 40-degree weather or if it was sunshine and 90-plus humidity, she was always there, and very, very happy that she always supported our program. With respect to the FACA, I have great friends and support. Leo's been a mentor to me over the years, and he's been a great friend, as well as Jim Griffin. And Jim is suffering from cancer again. He has another bout, and I would ask that you keep Jim Griffin in your prayers. Also, Monsignor Higgins, who was instrumental in me ending up at my last coaching spot at Cristo Rey High School. When I was campaigning for judge, Monsignor Higgins came to me and handed me a thing about Cristo Rey, which wasn't even a school yet in Tampa, and he told me to get involved. And I thought that I would do so someday. I just waited for the time to do it. As indicated, Wild Bill Minahan hired me over Hank Steinbrenner. It's in the program. It is factual. It's not fake news. He hired me over Hank Steinbrenner, who later became the president of the New York Yankees, but I wouldn't have traded spots. I had a great gig at Jesuit. It was wonderful. I worked for great ADs, and Martha and Bill used to always remind me, and I thought this was one of the greatest quotes I ever heard, was that you don't go through Jesuit High School goes through you. And that to me was just awe-inspiring. And my son Camden, who I love very much and got to go to Jesuit High School. And right before we started our season, I had to step down at Jesuit, and it killed me because from day one, it was the dream to coach my son in high school soccer at Jesuit. I coached him in club, but it was my dream to coach him in high school. And unfortunately, that dream didn't come true because I had to step down and focus on my campaign. But it did come true when I was at Cristo Rey, and he was on the sidelines with me my first year at Cristo Rey. I love you, Camden, and I'm incredibly proud of you. I've been lucky. I've been real fortunate. I've been able to live two lives, a professional life as a lawyer and now a judge, and then family life and coaching. Not many people get that opportunity. Part of that inspiration came from my high school coach. He taught at Pattonville High School in St. Louis. He coached at Pattonville High School in St. Louis, but he also coached Washington University's men's soccer team. And I'm thinking, wow, that's incredible. That's something that inspired me to want to coach. And the whole idea of coaching is to give back. And I enjoy it, and I've always treasured it. I don't know if I've gone my 7 or 8 or 9 minutes. Let me check my wrist. Oh, this is my championship poker bracelet for my friends from our poker and fishing club. Anyway, I just wanted to acknowledge them because I'll get a ring along with the bracelet now. So I just want to say thanks again. I love being a coach. It's one of the greatest things in the world to me, to be able to share knowledge of what you know about a game you have a specific passion and love and enjoy, and you enjoy being around the kids. And I thought, what could be greater than that? And for me, it's becoming a judge. Because now I get to work with not just kids in a limited capacity at one school, but now I can work with the whole community. And there's nothing better than I can think of than to exchange knowledge and work with the youth in our area that need help. And I encourage all of you to continue to chase your passion and chase your goals, because quite frankly, I've been very lucky and I've been able to achieve those goals. So the FACA, thank you so much. It's a great organization. I love being a member, and I'm honored and humbled to receive this award. Thank you.
It's remarkable when you get to meet these new inductees and find out a little bit about them away from the field, away from the court. Their journeys here I find terribly interesting. And they don't talk about their wins. They talk about the relationships and how they got here. And I find that so outstanding that they all remark about how dear their wives were. And ladies, you certainly are, because we don't get here in a vacuum, and we're only here because you're the drive behind us. So thank you for all you wives out there, and also the husbands when we induct a female coach, but today we didn't get to do that. So Dan Deering, it's your time. In getting to know Dan, and I've known him from across the track as he battled with my son for some state championships in track, that this wasn't where he thought he would wind up. He was an outstanding football player in high school, went on to play college ball, and was a great baseball player, or at least in his own mind he was a great baseball player. Until Corky Rogers, his Hall of Fame coach, pulled him aside and said, Dan, you're not very good at baseball. Have you ever thought about running track? So fast forward years later, something that he never gave a second thought to became his lifetime passion. Even though in college he reminded me that at one time he led the NCAA in interceptions. Well, for one game, he led the country in interceptions with 2. Didn't get another one until the last game of the year. But anyway, it's also remarkable that in talking with Dan, that he is the only one of us who has to legally call his wife Your Honor. Now, we all do that at home anyway, but Katie Deering is the outstanding circuit judge from Duval County. So on behalf of Judge Deering, I present to you our newest Hall of Fame inductee, Dan Deering. Have fun.
Thank you, Mike, for the introduction. I can assure you it did not break my heart at all when your son Jared decided to focus on coaching football, because it certainly, I got tired of losing to him, and he was with his track team at Florida High. I know that the first thing you're all thinking is, this coach is incredibly too young and handsome to be retired and already going into the Hall of Fame. You're not wrong, but thank you for saying it. I just finished my 20th year in 2019, and it was the right time for me to step back and spend more time with my family, to do some other things. I'm incredibly honored that you chose to include me in this process. Shelton's not here to contradict what I'm about to say, but as I was putting together my biography for Shelton, I realized I'd spoken at this clinic, the track and field clinic, 23 times. And I'm typically used to speaking for 60 minutes. So sit back, relax, kick your feet up. We'll be here for a minute. Nobody's gonna tell the judge to be quiet, but I brought my own. Actually, I brought two, because my father's a judge as well. And so you go through them if you want me to stop. I normally love to speak without notes. My coaches who know me know that they all chuckled when the gentleman said 5 minutes. But I know that I'm going to forget some important things if I don't use my notes. So I'm going to try to hit everything. Obviously, God granted me with a lot of opportunity, a lot of great friends, and a lot of blessings, and it all started with that. It's a real honor for me to be in this room with so many distinguished coaches and guests. I know that many of you have previously stood where I am now, and that you all chose to include me as part of this. I'm incredibly grateful. You've heard a lot of phenomenal speeches over the 30 plus years of this ceremony. I'm gonna let you know now, this is not gonna be one of those, but I have a lot of people that I wanna thank. I spent 20 years coaching high school track, but it all started as a high school athlete. And I think I have this distinction, and I'm gonna say it with authority. I don't know if it's true, but I'm gonna pretend it is. I think I'm the only person to ever have been coached by 4 different Hall of Fame coaches in their high school career. I played football for Corky Rogers, who's a member of this Hall of Fame. I wrestled, and then I ended up working later on for Matt Morris, who's in the FHSA Hall of Fame. I played baseball for Don Soriano. And then my summer job was I was a lifeguard for Greg Troy, who is the swim coach who ended up being the coach at Florida and is in the Florida FHSA Hall of Fame. And so imagine being influenced by 4 Hall of Fame coaches during your influential youth and still not ending up in any of those sports. Can you imagine how unathletic I was as a teenager to have that great coaching and end up in track and field instead? But it was Coach Rogers who sat me down, and I was at his funeral this year sharing stories with some of the other former athletes. And I'm sure that Coach Rogers didn't remember that story at all, sitting me down and saying, look, I think your talents probably lie elsewhere. Have you considered track and field? Would have never crossed my mind to do it. And that conversation that he sat me down for 5 minutes 30 years ago changed my life dramatically and led me in a whole different path that's been incredibly rewarding, and I'm incredibly grateful for that. Coaching is part of who I am, down to the fiber of my beings. I've been doing it for 20 plus years. I love teaching the sport, and I love coaching the kids. As you can imagine, a sport like track and field has 17 different events. You have to be able to study the events, you have to be able to spend time learning it, and you have to be able to teach it. There weren't a lot of kids that showed up at Bowles or at Oak Hall where I started that had pickup pole vault competitions in their backyard. They'll go out and throw the football, but you're not gonna have pickup hurdle meets, as a kid. So we're getting kids who never did the sport before, bringing them in and teaching them, which was a great challenge. I really fed my passion for teaching. I don't teach at the school. I have a separate professional job, and so it was always a passion for me to come over and do it, and that's how I was able to, felt like I was contributing. When I started coaching high school track, I was sure, after being I was a decathlete at the University of Florida after playing football somewhere else, up at Davidson, but I was coming in as a SEC decathlete, and I was quite sure that I knew absolutely everything that I needed to know, and I was gonna hit the ground running, and it was gonna be great because I knew everything. I had systems ready to implement. I had systems for my systems. Everything was just gonna work perfectly, and I was ecstatic about how much better I was gonna be than other coaches. And every year that I coached, I realized a little bit more how less I actually knew, such that at the end of my 20 years, I was quite convinced that there was so much more that I didn't know than what I did know. But I think my recognition of that probably helped me to go seek help from people smarter than me and helped us be successful. I spent 8 years serving on the FHSAA Track and Field Advisory Committee. I think I chaired that meeting 5 or 6 years. I spent 5 years as the FACA Track and Field Chairman, running the clinic that just concluded this morning. Last year was my final year of doing that. We averaged about 300 coaches coming in every year. I think Shelton tells me that we're typically the larger of the clinics or largest clinic. That was incredibly rewarding. Shelton Cruz got me involved in that. David Halliday was my predecessor and really kind of mentored me along the way. Ken Brauman, who was a previous FACA chairman for track and field, really kind of guided me. And I want to thank them. I don't think they could be here today, but I want to thank them for kind of getting me involved in the coaching education side and getting me involved in the FACA so I could find a way to give back. Getting to research who the best coaches were in the country and then getting to interview them and getting to fly them in and listen from them was phenomenally rewarding. I feel like my coaches helped me put on good clinics, and then sitting with them, picking their brain for you every weekend in this hotel for the last 15 years, again, taught me how little I know and how much more time I need to spend out there learning. When I first started coaching, I had a lot of ideas and systems and goals, and over the time of doing it, I learned to refine that down to 3 things, and I learned that if I could just implement 3 things with the kids, then we'd be successful. And the first was that they had to show up every day. We had, at a private school where kids want to do a lot of different things, it's hard to implement some rules sometimes, but I was adamant, you had to be there every day. We had a 0 unexcused absence policy. If there was school, you had to be there. And when you were there, you had to give 100% every day. Show up every day, give 100% every day. And that meant on the hard days, work hard, and on the easy days, take it easy. And on the problem that we had more often than not, because we had a great culture of kids that bought into it, was the kids would go home on an easy day, and their parents would say, "How was it today?" And they would say, "It was easy." And they said, "Oh, well, you should go out and run around the neighborhood some." And I'm like, no, the parents were more of a problem than the kids were, because the kids really bought into it. I swear to God, this is true. On more than one occasion, I'd have to pull the parents aside and sit them down and say, "Let me do the coaching. You tell them what a great job they did and give them a Gatorade." And more than one time, I had the parents mad at me enough that they pulled their kids from the school, went somewhere else, and the parent became the track coach at another school. I think that happened to me 3 times. But I protected the culture of what we did, and I kind of liked what we were doing, and we kept beating them, so it was okay. So show up every day, give 100% every day, and the last thing was to be a good teammate. Be a good teammate. Whether you're the fastest kid on the team or the slowest kid on the team, show up every day, give 100%, be a good teammate. And if we did that, I knew we'd be successful. You can measure success however you like, but I knew from my experience that we'd be successful. We never set goals with the kids or the students or the athletes to win championships or win this meet or that meet. The coaches and I would sit down and we'd figure out what we thought we could do, but I wanted the kids to focus on just those 3 things. To be as good as it can be, whatever that is for you and your team. The team has to buy into what you, the coach, are doing. They have to feel that you're a part of it and that they're a part of you. And if you do that, you can accomplish whatever is going to determine success for you in your situation. I remember my very first year at Bowles, there was a student who ended up coming back to be an assistant coach after he'd finished law school 8 years later. And he pulled me aside it was like the second day of practice. And I was coming in as somebody who had run track at Bowles as a high school kid and then came back. And he pulled me aside and he said, "Coach, do you think we're going to win any track meets?" And I looked at him and I didn't realize the culture I was walking into because I'd been gone for a little bit. And I'm thinking, first, I'm a really bad loser. I looked at John. I said, "It was John Maurice." I said, "John, I don't expect us to lose any track meets. I don't know what's been going on here before, but we're going to be prepared every day, and we're going to go into it with the mindset of it's going to be good and it's going to be enough." And so I realized I was going to have an uphill battle to come into a program that didn't have a lot of history of success prior to what we were able to build as a coaching staff. But it was a nose to the grindstone, kind of building it, protecting the culture along the way. There's a couple of pieces of coaching wisdom that I really wish I knew when I'd started. And because of not knowing them and having to learn them the hard way along the way, I try to include it whenever I get a chance to speak to coaches. The first is that you can't want it more than the kid does. I see it all the time. I was guilty of it myself, but you can't want it more than the kid does. Because if you do, you're going to end up being frustrated and you're going to end up being really unhappy. If you have a kid who wants to give you 100% and be there every day and working hard, I was the first one that'd be there with them. I'd be there till the very end. Nathan and I spent summers together and winters together, and Caitlin and I spent one-on-one coaching sessions, or half of our sessions, we had 2 coaches and 1 athlete all summer long because she wanted to do the work and Nathan wanted to do the work. And if you want to give me that effort, we were there for you. And if you don't, I was willing to give back this much more than they're willing to give me. And I told the kids flat out at the beginning of the season, whatever you're willing to give to this program and dedicate to us, we as a coaching staff, we're going to give you that much more. You want to give me 100%? We will figure out a way to give you more. Okay, my wife hates using anything more than 100%, so I'm going to leave it at that. But it's, you give me 100%, we will give you more than you give us back. And so there's nothing more nerve-wracking than getting an athlete into your program that you realize is better than you are as a coach. And it happened to me multiple times, and that led to me going, well, nuts, I need to go learn things and become a better coach. And that's my involvement in coaching ed through the FACA really helped me with that, bringing in the best people I could find to learn from. You talk about bringing kids better than you are. I'm going to go through a list of people who are here with me today. Nathan and I spent summers together traveling, just me and him in a car, going to decathlons all around the country. Caitlin Collier's with us, and she is the most decorated Florida high school distance athlete in the history of the state and holds a lot of records. And we traveled the world together, and it was a great experience, and thank you for letting me be part of it. It falls on the head coach of a large program like ours to decide what they want their team to look like. For me, it was important to have a vision and work tirelessly towards it. I see a lot of coaches that just kind of take what shows up at them and they go and they follow the team to see what they're going to be. There's a quote from a leader of the failed French Revolution who said, "There go the people. I must follow them to see where they are going, for I am their leader." And I didn't want to be that person. I wanted to have a vision for what I wanted the team to be, and I wanted to work tirelessly to make it what I wanted it to be. And for me, I wanted to have a large group of kids who loved the sport and wanted to be there every day. I wanted them to want to come to practice. I wanted them to want to be athletic and not just specialists. I didn't want a team of just great throwers or great distance kids or great jumpers. I wanted to be able to cover all the 17 events in track. And now they've added the javelin, which is great. So I wanted to be able to cover all the events. One of the shortfalls of what my career that I didn't ever accomplish, I really wish I had. No team in the history of Florida has ever qualified somebody to the state championship meet in all 17 events in the same year. And we came this close so many times. We missed it one year by one pulled hamstring. But it was a quiet goal of mine that I never shared with anybody, but we were really close. We did it to the region meet. We qualified boys and girls in all 17 events from the district meet to the region meet multiple times, but we fell just short of that. But the years that we would do that, I was incredibly proud of my coaching staff and the work that they did. I'm standing here because I got the credit for a lot of what my staff did. And I'm going to spend some time talking about them in just a moment. A lot of other assistant coaches who couldn't make it, thank you. All right, I'm going to go back and do all the rest of that again. I hope if you didn't hear it, I don't want you to miss it. No. Mike Rivera, Steve Stam, Taylor Newman, Vince Brooks, Sean Mullings, Kyle Martin, Wayne Belger, Melissa Mahiabs, Amanda Zakoski, Ira Wellburn, Tribla Pratt, and a few others. But as you can imagine, in a program with 200 student athletes and covering 17 events, we had a very large staff. Coaches for 20 years, you've been my second family. Your friendship means more to me than you could know. Some of my highest and lowest points have been with you by my side. My life is better for having met each of you, and I cherish the memories that we all have together. From watching accidentally inappropriate movies on bus trips, to late nights watching Celebrity Jeopardy, to being almost interested while our bodies recovered at the Florida Relays, and to some very late nights spent here in this hotel at the track and field clinic that you all helped me run. You'll be my family forever, and I cherish those memories. There is no crying in baseball. I've cried 3 times related to track and field, and they've all been in the last 2 years. One of them was standing on the Bulls track, running the last, I'm gonna try not to cry now, running my last region meet. We hosted most of the meets, more than half the meets that happened for our team the year we would host. So we were standing on the Bulls track for my very last home meet as the coach, when nobody else knew I was retiring. I knew I was retiring, but I hadn't told anybody else, because it was the right time to go. That, winning our final state championship, 3 weeks later, we won, my final year, we won again. It was, I think, it was our 4th title in, I think, 6 or 7 year span. Knowing that was my last track meet as a coach, and then getting the letter from the FACA this past June. It's just really rewarding, and thank you all very much for considering me for this. Sometimes I feel like I kind of succeeded in the culture we're trying to build by not just how many of my students want to run college track and field, and I don't know the answer. My brother asked me last night, how many kids did you coach that ran college track? I said, I really don't know. I think it's probably more than 100. Sending 5 a year doesn't feel like a lot. I think we had a lot of years with more than that, but now that I'm retired and have a lot of free time, I'm gonna go back and figure that out. But just how many of those students came back and wanted to be a coach for us, or wanted to be around the program, or wanted to come back to our big invitational and just hang out. It makes me feel like we did something special, and some of them are here today. Nathan, Caitlin, Frankie, thank you for being here. I also want to thank the team moms. He had a long list of team moms because it takes a lot. I was very blessed that in my final 16 years of coaching, I had 3 team moms because they had lots and lots of kids, and they all ran track. And it was great to have 3 team moms who knew what they were doing to run the kind of things that we did was great. I want to thank, that was Julie Sears, Julie Rice, and Jenny CK. I want to thank the Collier family for being here and literally allowing me to see the world with them. We probably spent cumulatively months together in hotel rooms around the country and around the world watching Caitlin run, and those were certainly some of the highlights of my coaching career, and thank you for letting me be a part of that incredible experience. I want to recognize the person that hired me for this job 20 years ago, and that was Matt Morris, my athletic director. Matt is in his own right a Hall of Famer, wrestling coach and athletic director. He understood what I was trying to do and gave me the free rein to try and change what had previously been a program with no real history of success. He guided me in my hard decisions and stood by me when I had to make unpopular ones that upset parents or the school administration or both. I'm incredibly thankful he trusted me with a position when I was 25 years old and stubborn, and he believed in me enough to help me see my vision through. He is both a mentor and a good friend. He is currently at a wrestling tournament and couldn't be here. Now that I have 1,000 hours back every year into my schedule, I have a chance to spend more time on my regular job. I play more golf, I fish more, and I spend more time with friends. Some of those friends are here today, and we all got through COVID together, hanging out in each other's driveways, walking a lot of golf courses. And thank you for being here, Michael, Rob, Marlon, and Kurt. These gentlemen have taken on the personal responsibility to lower my golf handicap and my liver function. Thank you. Appreciate you being here today and our friendships. I'd like to recognize my family who's here to celebrate with me. My father, Peter, and his wife, Susan. My brothers, David, Jason, their wives, Vicky, Melissa. My sister, Mandy, her family, James, Alyssa, and Austin. And my sister, Shelley, and her husband, David. My mother, Norma, passed away about 5 years ago, but it all started with her driving me to track meets 30 years ago. And she'll be the first to tell you that I got all of my skill from her. She used to challenge all the boys on the schoolyard to race during PE, and she would beat them all. And she's the first to take the credit for me being able to run track. And speaking with Coach Halliday earlier today, who's a member of this Hall of Fame, he said, make sure that you mention your wife. You can do it at the beginning, the middle, and the end. You can't do it enough. But finally, I want to thank my wife, Katie, for her incredible patience and tolerance of what took me away from her and our sons for 1,000 hours a year for next to no pay. We called it my charitable hobby. For 6 months every year, she was a self-described track widow. Without her support and love, I couldn't have accomplished any of this, and I wouldn't be standing here today. She understood that being a coach was who I am at my core. It made me happy and defined so much of who I am, and she understood that. We made a number of time and financial sacrifices to allow me to keep doing what I loved, and it made me happy. So thank you. I also want to recognize my two sons, Luke and Jack. Now that I'm not living at Bowles for 6 months a year, I get to go to all the swim practices and meets, and the golf practices and tournaments, and the quiz bowl competitions, and I'm even getting to coach U10 baseball. Those kids are going to be really fast to first base. Thank you for sharing me with the Bowles kids for so many years. I love you, boys. I want to finish by just saying something that's always resonated with me. And without knowing the actual quote, it's motivated kind of what's driven me for so many long. And that's that successful people are not those who don't fail. Successful people fail more than anyone, but they just refuse to accept failure as the conclusion. So show up, give 100%, and be a good teammate. Thank you.
If he'd only been able to hit a curveball, we might have been listening to him talk about his baseball coaching career. Congratulations, Coach. Michael Kypris, it's your time. Another interesting journey of a man who didn't think he'd be coaching the sport that he wound up being so great at. As a young man, he shared with us that he played football and baseball, and when it was suggested to him or his father, you ought to let this young man play some tennis. You're not going to play tennis. That's a sissy sport. Well, 40 years later, you took this sissy sport to new heights, Coach. But don't think of Mike as a football, baseball player who wasn't good enough, so he wound up doing track or tennis. He got recruited by Notre Dame to play quarterback along with Joe Montana. But when Ara Parseghian left Notre Dame, a lot of recruits scattered to other places. He wound up playing at the University of Kentucky. But thank goodness, somewhere along the line, you continued to like that. You had a passion for tennis, and those kids are grateful for it. 17 state championships later, that's got to be a record. Michael Kypris.
Good afternoon. Well, I cry 3 times a day, Dan, so you're doing really good. 40 years and 7 minutes is tough to do, but I'm going to give it a shot. I'm a Beatles fan, so this is the long and winding road. It starts with family. My wife, Sherry, my best friend. My children, Michelle, Caroline, Katie, who just had a baby, Lane and Tony and Alex, my brother Teddy, who probably beat the hell out of me more than any human being on the face of the earth, went on to play football at the University of Texas in Arlington, still today loves to fight at 68 years old. My sister-in-law Chris, my brother-in-law Gino, the Mintz family who took me in at 16 when my parents moved out of the district so I could stay at Miami Norland. Alice, Ben, Brent, Howard, thank you. And the Bucci family, who I've known since 3 years old. And Ralph and I have maintained our friendship. Today he's the curriculum director at Clemson University. It all started in 1973, where I was a high school quarterback for Bill Dawkins, who broke clipboards over my head, threw Coke bottles at halftime at half the kids, and he taught me the meaning of toughness. I don't know if he could coach today, to be honest, but somehow, some way, that toughness and that competitive edge stayed with me. It spilled over to a gentleman by the name of Warren Whitaker that became my mentor and my quarterback coach that really guided me in making the decision. As you heard, I was going to go to Notre Dame, and Ara Parsegian resigned. His son got ill. Montana was signed to go to Penn State. We went on the same recruiting trip together. I switched and went to Kentucky. Fran Kersey was a Miami coach, got the job at Kentucky, and took 10 of us from South Florida to Kentucky. So how does a football player wind up being a tennis coach? This isn't about me. This is about everybody that got me here. In 1982, I made a move to Miami Killian High School, and Anthony Pariso, the principal, says, "Oh, by the way, you're the offensive coordinator. I need a tennis coach." Well, a lot of you that coach in here may know there's a lot of us coaches in football that coach bowling and badminton. Whatever the principal wants you to do, you do. So in this case, I took the tennis team, and across the street was the Francisco, Montana Tennis Academy that was producing some of the greatest players in the state of Florida in tennis. Well, that was our facility for Miami Killian. His sons, Francisco and Pablo, went on to be great players, and all I did, he was my first tennis mentor. He said, "You've got athletic ability. Why don't you go get tested? Let me teach you for 6 months." I went to Key Biscayne, got tested at the High Performance Center, the UST facility, got a Professional 1 status, and the rest moved on. I became the coach at Killian High School, where we had tremendous success. And it all started with a young lady by the name of Elizabeth Levinson. She was our first All-American, went to Miami, played on the Pro Tour. That was followed by Paige Jaroshik. Today, her 17th year as the head coach at the University of Miami. She attended UCLA. It evolved into Jack Brasington. Got to 113 in the world, the most wins in Texas history at the University of Texas. Today, he is a head coach at St. Thomas University in Houston. And then finally, Jean Julian Roger, who moved in with my wife and I at the age of 14 from Curacao. He has won Wimbledon, US Open, French Open, and doubles. Today, he still plays. These people made it where I could be up here today. As we moved on, and these young people, we moved on to Dr. Kropp High School in 1999 after being at Killian for 17 years. I went there as the assistant athletic director, and the principal, Enid Weissman, who is now the mayor of Aventura. She had a way station stop as a superintendent, called me into the office, and she says, "Can you win me state championships?" I said, "I'll do my best." Every year, our kids were academic All-Americans, and that carried over to the court. My athletic director was Ron Rodriguez. What an incredible man to work for. You're only as good as the people you work for because you work hard for those people. I also had other great principals there, George Nunez, Matt Welker, Don Baglos. And those principals basically said, "Listen, it's your program. You do it the way you want to do it. Just make sure we're academic first, athletic second." Dr. Kropp was one of the most prominent athletic academic institutions in the state of Florida. When I left to be the athletic director at Kropp, when Ron resigned, I had to hire coaches to take over a program that was on a nice roll. Vinny Barros, Felix Rids, Audrey Bonata, Tanya Vucetic, and my daughter Michelle all continued the success of the program while I was the athletic director. But most of all, the one man that had the most impact and influence on our program as my assistant was Damon Hallback. And Damon Hallback gets as much credit for winning those state championships and sending those kids to school as much as I do. The third mentor that I had was Bill Clark. Bill Clark was a professional baseball player for the St. Louis Cardinals that made it to Double-A. And Bill became the most successful academy coach in the state of Florida in tennis. Never played a day of junior tennis, just like me. But I loved it, but couldn't play it because my dad wouldn't allow it. Bill Clark's had 49 players win national championships. He has the most successful tennis academy in South Florida. He taught me the meaning of, ask a kid, when you make a peanut butter jelly sandwich, is it the best one you could ever make in your life? What you're doing now, is it the most important thing in your life? And that proved to me that you could reach kids that way by letting them know between the ages of 13 and 18 that we are mentoring their lives. We're like their second fathers. We're like their parents. I moved on to Dr. Kropp, and there I had some great players as well where we continued some success. Alex Knight is here today. Vinny Barros is here today. Alex Knight went to Michigan, became captain at Michigan, a first-team All-American. He's on the pro tour now. He came over from Saddlebrook to come and honor me today. Alan Chacrone won a state championship. Alex started with me when he was 8 years old. Trina Spear went to Harvard Business School. Today, she's a co-founder of FIGS that produces all the uniforms for the first responders. How about a round of applause for her? I supposedly retired in 2016 and moved to St. Augustine with my wife, where my daughter went to school and her husband at Flagler. I was there for 3 days, and I said, why don't I just take an application to substitute teach at Nice, where the legend Tim Tebow played. So I went over there and turned in my resume. 2 days later, the phone rings, and it's the principal and the AD and says, you're Michael Kypris? I am. Would you like to coach tennis? My wife said, I'll divorce you. 3 days later, I took the job. They had no coach. Catherine Jakeway, she's at SMU. Anyway, I'm the director of junior development at Palencia Tennis Club with a great staff. My last mentor, Tom Salmon, Scotty L., Jeff Golden, Carlos, Joanne, Amy, Galena. I all work with them at Palencia. Finally, I'd like to close by saying John Wooden was my mentor. John Wooden developed the pyramid of success. All of you coaches know all about it. Faith is first. You got to believe it. Family, second. Enjoy it. Academics, third. Work it. Athletics, fifth. Love it. Social life, limit it. This pyramid of success brings me to the last thing I'd like to say, another Beatles statement. And in the end, it's the love you take is equal to the love you make. Thank you. Thank you.
Today, this coach becomes royalty in the FACA with the Palmers, the Feelys, and now the Siriannis. Fort Myers High School had over 100 victories. He and his dad over half of those. 100 years of coaching, his and his dad, over half of them. Sammy Sirianni, it is your time, buddy. Sammy and I go way back. He was a senior in high school golf in the early 80s, and I was coaching at Manatee High School. And in those days, there was no regionals. It was very difficult to get the state tournament. There was like 27 schools in our district. We came down from Manatee like everybody else, and we played at their home course. And I had a great team. I had 5 players that were scratch players, 5 of them. We weren't good enough. They still beat us and went on and did fantastic at the state tournament. But we laugh about that all the time. Sam Sirianni.
Thanks, Coach. Yeah, it is a great story. As you're going to find out today, there's about 3 things that I really don't like to do. One is to give speeches. I can tell stories, but I don't like to give speeches, so I'll tell a few stories. Number 2 is any type of award honor, although very humbling, is just not my style. It's about those people that every one of them will tell you when they made plans to come up here. I said, if you come up here, you know, and we'll talk about you. So they were willing to make the trip, and I'm grateful. But this isn't about me. There's nothing about today that's about me. And the third thing I don't like to do is dress up. So for me to get up here and do all this, it's very humbling. To finish Coach Knowles' story, and I say this because we played a golf match. Like I said, when I was 14 years old, freshman at Fort Myers High School, my alma mater, we had to take a speech class. And so I was given this gift of gab to storytell for this reason. They said when you get ready to give a speech, and if you have any nerves, which by now I don't, that's one thing I'll tell you, I'm not nervous about speaking. They told you to always tell a story. Break the ice. Once you break the ice, then you own the room. So I'm going to finish the story that Coach Knowles went on to tell. We went up to Manatee High School my senior year before the district tournament, which we were fortunate enough to win. In those days, there was one classification. Our district had the best 5 golf teams in the state of Florida. I will say that. And it's pretty recorded fact because when you heard some of the names that played. But we played a match up at Manatee High School, and Coach Knowles took us out to this course out by the airport, Manatee Country Club, something out, airplanes were flying over, and it was Fort Myers High, Sarasota High, and Manatee High. And they don't record this, but there were 7 guys that played in that match that went on to play Division I golf. And we lost to Sarasota High School by 1 shot. We shot 5 under par, 139 if you ever played any high school golf, and we got beat by a shot. We left that golf tournament, went back to the district. We're fortunate to won the state championship by 30 shots. And the reason that story has a great ending is the golf coach was my father. And you're going to hear a lot, if you've read the bio, everything that I do have when it comes to this profession is through him, and I was able to give him, along with our teammates, that 1 state championship that eluded him in football despite what's a phenomenal record, mainly because of St. Thomas Aquinas. So we weren't in bad company. They were kind of our pitfall on 4 or 5 different occasions. But to the FACA, you know, I know nothing different in my 36 years. I mean, I grew up in a district. We're now District 18. I don't know what our number was in the day. But from the day I started coaching, actually way before then, I used to tug along with my father and his staff to Daytona, back to Jacksonville, to Orlando, but used to go to the Shriners All-Star game when the FACA game was run by the Shriners in the old Gator Bowl. And FACA to me was just part of the job. I mean, you were a member of the FACA. And I took for granted, because I had such wonderful mentors in our district. We have, since I've been in the FACA, technically in 1986, we have 5 Hall of Famers that served as our district director. So we were very blessed. We've always had historically the largest school memberships in the FACA, and that's a tribute to the late Elmer Tremont, my father, the late Sam Sirianni, Joe Hampton, Bill Kramer, and getting those schools and those administrators to understand what a difference that we could make as a profession, and to take care of those coaches and send those coaches to clinics and send those coaches to certify so that we could take care of our greatest, valuablest asset, and that was the kids. And I've been blessed. Like I said, the FACA, having been a sports chairman, a district chairman, and then serving on the executive board as a past president, I wouldn't give it up for the world. And our message, I know I talked to some of our coaches that are in our system or in our district about passing that on to the next generation, because this organization and what it stands for has shaped so many people and affected so many young people's lives. But like I said, it's not going to be about me, so it's just about time to thank some people. Shelton, and I know you're watching, he called me the other day, and this goes back 4 or 5 years ago when I was fortunate enough to serve as my time as president and accumulated enough points for potential induction to the honor. I told him, no, I'll retire and then we'll think about it. And he's like, yeah, and between him and a couple other guys here that they know who they are, they kept pushing and telling me. And I said, well, Shelton, the day that I go into the Hall of Fame, I'm going to retire if that happens. And he said, oh, no, I can't make you retire. So Shelton, I know you're watching. First of all, wish you and the family wonderful health. It won't be long, but at the end of the day, thank you for pushing and doing whatever you had to do to make today happen. And I hope to coach a couple more years. So he was worried the other night in a conversation. He goes, "No, you're not going to hold me to this and retire, are you?" And I said, "No, I think I'll try to coach a couple more years, good Lord willing." There's a couple people in the FACA. If you were fortunate enough, I know Coach Knowles brought it up. I sat here, and I can't believe it's been 10 years ago. I sat in, I guess it was just this room, 10 years ago, and a good friend of mine, we had a common acquaintance through one of my roommates at University of South Florida on our golf team, but John Palmer, who is one of the 3 families now, father-sons, that are blessed to be in this Hall of Fame. And I sat and listened to John's speech. I thought it was 4 years ago, but it's been 10. That tells you how time flies. But I sat there, and it's kind of come full circle, because I said, as I was thinking what I was going to say, and obviously, how important my father was and to anything that I've been fortunate enough to accomplish. But I listened to John, and we've had this discussion a few times, and along with the Feelys, what greater honor to get a chance to be in, such a great fraternity anyway, but to do it with your father. And I know now how John feels 10 years later. But to John Wilkinson and Rod Schaefer, I got a phone call from an active past president, Paul Meckley, George Smith, and I really never put this into perspective. And they were great friends of my father, great friends of our staff, and those people were so instrumental. All I ever tried to do was just absorb, be a sponge, and listen and learn and be quiet and take a little bit from all the great people I was around. A couple people in the FACA, though, I do want to honor and talk about today briefly before I get to my Fort Myers family and my immediate family. They happen to be sitting at the same table. I always think about, I always big believer in karma, fate, how do you become successful? Well, you got to be in the right situation. Obviously, I inherited a wonderful situation. Had great mentors to follow. You got to have good luck, fate, and all those things. Secondly, you got to have wonderful support from family, friends, administration, community. Fort Myers, we played football for 102 years, 101 years, going on 102 years. but 100+ years of community support is so important. And then thirdly, you got to have studs. You got to have players. I mean, listen, if I was building cars, I could work for Mercedes-Benz, but if I was building your car, you wouldn't be a very good company. So you got to have studs as players, athletes, just like you have to have great car builders or whatever profession you're in. But certain things tend to go full circle. And for all the years I've been fortunate to be in this profession, in 1998, these two gentlemen that I'm going to talk about for just a minute, along with my father, within the FACA, I thought it was a cool, and again, one of my story tells. In 1998, we were at this clinic, and I came up with my dad. He was on the executive board. He said, let's go down. We went to Outback out there by the racetrack. Never said a word to me, just the two of us. And it was kind of weird because I said, hey, how'd your meeting go? So we go down, we get at the table, and I could tell something was different. He said, I got some good news. He goes, I just was announced to be the head coach of the Florida-Georgia game. And it was voted by the board. So, of course, I know I was excited, and he was, downplayed it. And he said, I got some other good news, better news. Well, his brother, my Uncle Frank, who could not be here, coached 40 years with him. And, well, he and I, from our roots in West Virginia, Wheeling High School in Wheeling, West Virginia, came to Florida, is our winningest baseball coach at Fort Myers High, and was our defensive coordinator for 40 years under my dad. And then, oddly, he was, technically under me as a head coach. But he goes, they also voted unanimous. Now, he's telling me this at the Outback. Never breaks a smile, never raises his voice. He said, for the first time, they're going to allow the head coach of the Florida-Georgia game to bring his own one assistant along with the rest of his staff. Well, of course, that was done for Coach Sam. Respect to Coach Sam. They allowed him to bring an assistant, which obviously was his brother Frank, who got to coach with him. He added Joe Hampton to that staff, Hall of Famer. He added Hall of Famer Mike Hickman to that staff. Al Morrell from Clewiston, Florida, was his defensive coordinator. So 1998 for our family was just a special moment within the FACA. Well, that same year, Joe Hampton, who I'll get to here momentarily, took his Estero High School football team to a state championship game. A first and great feat in our county. Well, Joe Hampton came to Fort Myers in 1978, came from Palatka, Florida. Got to Fort Myers, was told to look up Sam Sirianni. They met. He was my freshman football coach. He went on to not only be an assistant at Fort Myers, 1 year, we overlapped 1 year, and then he created a great program down at Estero High School. He's been a past president, Hall of Famer. He became, a second brother to my father. Nothing made my father prouder than to see Joe Hampton go on and do great things. And when my father passed, Joe filled that void for me, kept me in this organization. He became executive board, appointed, helped get me appointed to the board of directors. And so I owe a lot to Coach Joe Hampton, including being one of the people conspiring to me to be here today. So thanks, Coach. At his table is a gentleman that replaced me as our district board member when I went on the executive board. 1998, this gentleman came over from the East Coast. And if you followed Southwest Florida football, you hear of Naples High School. And it's a direct reason to the gentleman, Bill Kramer, who received the Dub Palmer Award today. Now, here's what you don't know. He inherited a program that was, and I am saying this as true as I can stand here, they had dropped, Fort Myers and Naples go back forever and ever, the two old schools. They had dropped us, couldn't win a game for years before that gentleman got there. 1998, he took over Naples High School, and the rest is history. I bring him up today for a lot of reasons. The last football game in 2002 that was played before my father passed. My father passed in October of 2002. We played Naples High School the Friday before. Coach Kramer was coming off a state championship. Fort Myers-Naples game has always been a huge game to the communities. And we played him the Friday night. My father passed away a week later. We were fortunate and very fortunate. Listen, Naples is it's a tough place to go. But you go down there, you got the fireworks and, smoke bombs going off, and it's a tough place. Then you add on top of it a great program. But we were fortunate that night, and I'm sure Coach Sam was sending us some good vibe. But Coach Kramer and I shared a moment after that football game, and that's between us. But I want to say this, that everything that man's accomplished on the field, and I say he's as good a football coach, builder of programs that I've ever seen, it's well-deserved. And he means a lot to us and our family, and thanks, Coach, for being here and your award today. Now I move to my Fort Myers crew. Every one of you now, and I only got a couple minutes, so I'll make this fast. I'm going to start with a lot of the community people. The Stricklands, they've been in business 100 years. Steve played for my father. Loring, Shelby, just an institution in Southwest Florida. I told y'all, so they're like, we're coming up. I said, no, you're not. Yeah, so they did. So thank y'all. I love y'all. To my buddies, I got, small core of people that can put up with me. Chalk and Kenny and Bo and Patrick. Thanks for everything. We go back a long ways, and that means the world that you would come up here. To my staff, I talked about, having great fortune, having great situation. 4 of us have been together for 25 plus years. 2 that could not be here today that are, fortunately still with us. I mean, to inherit a program that was in such good standing, a community, a support system, and then a staff, all I ever try to do is stay out of the way, and that's all I do. But to have Coach Weekly, 35 years, my right hand came down, they were rivals of us in West Virginia, across the river, Bel Air, Ohio. They used to cheat you like murder over there, but that's another story. But he just happened to stumble down to Florida, and they said, you got to go on down. He was up in Palmetto area, Bradenton. They said, you got to go down to Fort Myers. There's a wheeling guy down there. And the rest is history. And, having him, my 35 years we've been around together. And to him and his wife, Trish, and it was a tough year for them, but not having him on the field with me this year, but he's doing wonderful, and the good Lord took care of him, and he's going to coach a couple more years before he rides off into the sunset. Coach Jimmy Roberts, Coach Jim Roberts, Don Weekly, and myself, we're the 3 tenured building in the school. When Miss Cheryl Jones, who's been our guidance counselor for years, retired, we're number 1, 2, and 3 in seniority. That just means we're old. But 3 oldest people at Fort Myers High School, Jim Roberts, Don Weekly, and myself. Thanks, Jimmy and Sherry. Nick Casario, Nick and Denise. Nick's been with us for, up now it's pushing 20 years. I mean, the years run together. Greg Martin played Fort Myers with me. Has been just a great addition. Having him back at Fort Myers High and with our FCA program, him and Jimmy, and of course, as a former Greenie, and I know he's enjoying retirement now, and I don't know. We can always twist arms. Maybe we get him to coach a little bit more, at least in spirit. But thanks, Greg, for everything. Kirby, and listen. Y'all, they introduced Steph Martin a little bit ago. Steph Martin, Hall of Famer. She's my department head. She puts up with Donnie and I all the time, but thanks, Steph. Yeah, she goes through a lot down there with us. We're not conforming kind of people, but thank you, Steph, for everything. To our current AD, Steve Cato. Steve coached under me, so now that's all a weird role reversal, but Steve's doing a great job with a young family. I know how hard that job can be. And a couple of our athletic staff, Inez, I want to get them all right, to my buddies and their families. And now to my administration. Got 2 of my 6 principals here that have been with me. I've had 6 principals in 40 plus years as a student and a teacher. Gentleman that started in 1986 alongside of me and coached against me, coached with us, was our AD. He's now the county athletic director, became a close, very close friend, was the principal most of my years as head coach. Mr. Dave LaRosa, thanks for everything. We go back a long way. Another West Virginian, by the way. You know, we tend to find some West Virginians down there. One of our coaches said one day, says, everybody from, West by God, Virginia? I said, I hope so. But another West Virginian. And our current principal, this again tells you how old I am. He played at a rival school, Mariner High School, was a heck of a player, went to college, came back. We coached against each other, had some wonderful battles, watched him go into administration, become a principal, and recently moved over in the last couple of years to Fort Myers. He bled black and silver for years, but he got him in a green shirt today, and he's done a wonderful job and been a wonderful friend to me. Thank you, Dr. Butts, for being here. And that brings me to my family, to Fred, Jennifer, you two guys. I know y'all can't sit still this long, so I'm not going to be much longer, but these are my little water T-boys, just like I was. Someone says, my dad told a story that, how did he know he was going to be into football? Well, when they were up in Clarksburg, West Virginia, their apartment house burned down, and I've heard this story many times, and everything was lost except a football stuck in a tree. So he knew he was going to be a footballer and a player or coach. So someone asked, how did you know you were going to be, a coach? I said, well, it's pretty obvious. When I was 6 years old, he used to always tell me, again, I don't remember this, a long time ago. When I was 6 years old, he used to tell me I'd tug on his jacket and tell him to call better play. So maybe that was one reason. Maybe when first day I interned as a stockbroker, I made it till noon, said, that's not for me. Called down, said, what do I got to do to certify to be a coach? Something told me I was going to be in this sport, and I'm thankful. But from those days as a water boy and tea boy, I see myself out there chasing that tea like they are, but thanks for everything. To my sister, Stephanie, she's the biggest Fort Myers High football fan there is. Way more than me. And I'm serious about that. It is she. If someone bled green, it was her. And she spent many years over on the East Coast in their district department, and was so happy she came back a handful of years ago, retired in Lee County. She's been so wonderful to me, so wonderful to our program, still in retirement, and she was Daddy's little girl. I mean, she was the apple of his eye, and she loves Fort Myers football, and thanks, Stephanie, for everything you do for me. And lastly, 52 years she's been, she's the mother of Fort Myers football. I mean, she is she's the matriarch. 52 years of her husband and her son. There's nobody in that community, nobody at Fort Myers High School, nobody on Friday night that doesn't know Miss Margaret. So to my mother, when Shelton and Joe and everybody said, I'm so happy that we could get this done, and I wanted her to get a chance to see it 20 years removed from when my dad went in. So thanks, Mom. I love you. As I close, again, I can't say how much this is, the one person that, I owe all this to. The one person that, was my coach, was my father, was my colleague, and as you read that bio, and we were fortunate to coach at the same school over 50 years of 100, able to have over 100 wins and join the Palmers. I don't even think of the 100 and whatever it is. It's the 150 that we won when I was his assistant that those were the ones with these same guys that means so much. To be in our school Hall of Fame together, our county Hall of Fame together, and today to put the cherry on the top. There's only one more team and only one more place that we'll be teammates together, and I'll see you one day, and I love you. Thanks, and God bless.
Oh, great stories. Andy Warner, it's your time. One of the better things we've done as Americans is to steal Andy Warner from the great country of England 40 years ago. If you grew up in the Tallahassee area, you feel like Andy Warner's been at your kitchen table many, many times, as he established the youth soccer program there while he was coaching at Maclay and winning state championships. All of my children and all of my grandchildren have played in some fashion in the Andy Warner youth soccer programs. So thank you for that, Andy. He's just a remarkable coach that took his passion for soccer well beyond just coaching high school. He has spread it throughout the Southeast. The other good thing that he did as he got to Western Illinois University, he meets this young graduate assistant. Since he'd only been there a short time, thought he'd help her out and show her around and ask if he could help her when she left this office. She shot him down and said no. She didn't need any directions. But he runs into her three days later and convinces her to go out. Fast story, they get married a year later, and Lisa Marie has been his loving wife ever since then. So congratulations to the entire family. Welcome to the United States, Andy. We thank you.
Folks, this is the last 10 minutes. And in any game, any sports coach will tell you, in the big games, it's the last 10 minutes. So what I'd like to do, because you've been very patient the last hour, and before I make my, if you'd like to stand up, if you'd like to do 25 jumping jacks, 10 push-ups, 10 sit-ups, please feel free. But if you feel like you would like to, I think it would be great, because Shelton is watching right now, and I did not get the message. Shelton said I had 28 minutes. So I'm going to have to reduce that. It is indeed an honor and a privilege to be with you this afternoon. I'd like to thank the FACA, Director Shelton Cruz, the Hall of Fame Committee for my selection to this 45th Hall of Fame. I particularly would like to thank Mike Hickman, who has been a leader in the sports community in Leon County for 40 years. And as is so important to a community, sports is a big part of our community, and particularly high school sports. I want to particularly thank Coach Jake Von Scheer, who was my athletic director at Maclay School for 4 years, who first of all got me focused on counting my wins and losses, because up to this time, that had never been an issue. I didn't know how many wins, how many losses. Now, some of you may look at that and say, well, that's difficult, but I really didn't. But I want to thank Jake, and I want to thank Jan for being great friends and putting me forward for this great honor. I do want to congratulate my fellow honorees. To be inducted to a Hall of Fame with such distinguished fellows and groups is indeed an honor, very special, and particularly to Bob Bauman and Bob and I. It's a long, long time since I saw Bob, but one thing I learned in coaching 30 years ago, if you want to try and be the best, you've got to learn from the best. And I remember going down to the University of Tampa for many, many years, watching Bob compete with Leon High School back and forward, and Bob was one of the programs at Jesuit that I modeled the Maclay program on. So in preparing for today's presentation, it was clear to me that the 28 minutes now, obviously 10 minutes, is not going to be enough to thank everybody individual. But I do want to talk about people who've supported my dreams, supported my teams, and have enabled me to participate in a sport that I've had passion for since the age of 4. So I'm going to do my best. I'm going to speak from prepared remarks. And for those people who know, and particularly my family in England, my children in Colorado, Austin, I speak from the heart. That's who I am, and that's what I believe. To my beloved wife of 38 years, Lisa Marie Warner, our meeting was destined that fateful day in 1981. It was incredible. I saw a light on at Western Hall. I'd been offered an opportunity to come back to Western to pursue my dreams and a postmaster's degree in education. I took that opportunity. I met the woman, and she's been my partner ever since. I count my blessings every day. We have a loving wife, loving relationship, but she's my biggest critic. And to tell you two things, and as families, you know this. It was a very cold day at University of Florida, and I was a color commentator for the University of Florida versus Notre Dame game, and Mick Huber was the play-by-play, and I was a color announcer, and I worked with Mick for about 13 years. And I finished the game, I got home, I thought it was a great game. The game had gone into overtime. I got home, I said, Lisa, what do you think? She just looked at me and said, HD. Excuse me, she said, HD. I said, what does that mean? She said, high definition. I said, what do you mean? You look terrible. You could see your wrinkles. It was terrible. So what do you think? She says, I'll make sure I put makeup on you the next time. And so for the next 3 years, if you watch it, I wore makeup on TV. A couple of years ago, I started an ESPN radio show called Soccer Guys with my best friend, David Durr, professional soccer coach. He was the goalkeeper at Western when I was coaching, and we've been good friends and run several businesses together. And I got in and I said, hey, what do you think about this? We're starting this radio show called Soccer Guys. What do you think? She turned around and looked at me and said, you've definitely got a face for radio. So, I mean, that's the kind of relationship that we're talking about. To my three children, Scott, Gary, Lindsay, who are watching right now, great athletes in their own right. All the way through high school, Scott, Gary, Lindsay played at the collegiate level. But most importantly, independent-minded, purpose-driven, and passion for what they do. Scott is an incredibly successful superintendent of roadway building in Austin, Texas. Gary, a successful high school and a college player, came home one day and just said, Dad, I'm joining the Army. That was 13 years ago. And he serves today as a sergeant first class. I couldn't be more proud of him. And my daughter Lindsay moved back to Tallahassee 3 years ago with 3 grandchildren, blessing in disguise. To my 7 grandchildren, Atlee, Wesley, Charlie, Hadley, Camden, Aiden, and Decker, what a joy. And the reason I hope to coach for the next 15 years, I can do it. Like many of you here, sitting here today, our family and our upbringing create core values. And my life was no different. We grew up in a very poor area in Lancaster, England. We lived in subsidized housing. We didn't own our house. We didn't own a car. We didn't get a television until we were 11 years of age. But what we had was a core family value, a mother and father who loved us, parents that realized that sports was the future, a school and school sports that allowed us to stay off the streets and stay focused. My mother, Barbara Marion Warner, and bear with me, was the patriarch of our program. She left school at 15, like most people in those days, to go and earn a living, and she was incredible. And there were 2 words she used to say to me every night before I went to bed. Every single night. I believe in you. Always do your best. Simple messaging, simple thoughts. I've used those words every day of my life for the last 37 years in coaching. The ability to look at a student in the eye to eye, and really truly believe that I believe in you and you believe in me and we believe in each other. Belief is a powerful word, and I think more today it has to be a word that we need to use. From my father, Peter William Warner, brilliant guy, left school at 15 years of age, and I won't bore you outside of the thing that the fondest memories with him, we didn't own a car, was driving on a bicycle, him driving, me sitting on the handlebars with my soccer ball, taking me to soccer practice, to soccer game, and then later on in life being able to play with him. Prior to his passing, the 3 days I had, I spoke more about those moments, not winning and losing, but just those moments. I have 3 sisters, Yvonne, Beverly, and Adele, all watching. Wonderful people, powerful women, the best sisters that you could ever be, best friends 40 years on. But my sister Beverly, especially, I want to give a shout out. She made a smart investment in me in 1979. She loaned me £500 to come to the United States in 1979. 4 years later, she joined me, and in 1989, we started the Warner Sports Promotions Education Company, which today is a very successful run company out of Tallahassee, Florida, and she has been the backbone of that program. Simply the best youth soccer coach I've ever been associated with. In 1989, as we started an organization, and I'd worked in different areas and different companies, but when I moved to Tallahassee, Headmaster Bill Jablon, Athletic Director Bruce Irvin, came to me one day and said, would you help the program? I said, well, this is not really a great time. They said, well, look, just go day to day. And I said, well, Bill, let me do this. Can I go on a day-to-day contract? I laugh today, I'm still on a day-to-day contract, and that's the way I like it. So they asked me to do that, and we had great success early on. We lost in '89, but we won the championship, the first one in '91. But in '95, Bill came to me and said, look, athletics is a big part of our program. We're a private school, but we want you to use your experience. Can you put a plan together that you think can help us move forward? And I said, I can do that, Bill, and I did that. And two of the key pillars of the program, particularly in a small school, you can be small in numbers, but big in stature. And I say this to my student athletes every day. We may be a small school, but we're big in sports. We're big in sports. And I said, the middle school program that you have, you cannot cut any child, any student athlete. Every student athlete that wants to come out in 6th grade and has a desire to be an athlete, give them the opportunity. That proved to be probably the smartest decision we've ever made at Maclay School. The number of student athletes that came through our program that helped develop the talent base is incalculable. So that was one smart decision we made. Like any organization, a school, a business needs leadership, it needs visionaries. And Maclay have had that. The first headmaster that I worked for, Bill Jablon, clearly saw athletics as a key element in the experience, the academic and athletic experience at Maclay. And this has been taken on now by the new headmaster, James Milford. Maclay is truly in an exciting path, exciting future, and athletics has a key role to play. Our athletic directors I've been associated with, I can only tell you, not only are they great professionals, they're just good people and been great friends. Bruce Irvin, for the many years, a talented administrator. Scott Egan, who still works at the school. Jake Von Scheer, who did remarkable things for our program and a great friend. And we're so proud of him. And our new athletic director, Harold Hilliard, has come in with some great visionary things and support. For Coach Paul Dixon, who's sitting here today, surprised me today, all of us as head coaches and all of us sitting here today will realize that the real smart decision making in coaching is selecting the right people with the right skill sets, with the ability to be able to support your vision, or collectively our vision. Paul Dixon is just one of those individuals, an extremely talented teacher, but an incredible people person, and a person I will tell you that without his involvement, I could have not, and we could have not been as successful. So Paul, thank you very much. To Andy Surratt, Greg Lamondola, these coaches have been with us for over 20 years. Consistency is the best way for success. Keep the program going. If it's working, develop it. If it's not working, change it. Pretty straightforward. So with all of that said and done, I do finally want to thank all our Maclay coaches, our teaching staff, and everybody focused on our overall mission. They collectively make Maclay the special place it is today, so thank you. How did I manage to balance running a full-time soccer education business, doing other things and stuff with soccer? It was simple. Schedule your time with the high school program and work around that. That's the one time a day for 2.5 hours you can focus, you can get away from all the clutter, and the moment you step on the pitch, life changes. The excitement, your energy, the focus. And I try and stay young, and I tell people, how do you stay vigorous? It's having something to look forward to each and every day. And ladies and gentlemen, there isn't a day goes by that I do not appreciate stepping on that field at Maclay with the student athletes and learn each and every day from these talented student athletes. It's just an absolute blessing. My Warner Soccer, ASG soccer family, the people have really made it going. Cindy Boswell is a chief operating officer, child development specialist from Jacksonville. She got involved in our organization 15 years ago. She revolutionized that program. Child development, services, communication. Without her, we could have not managed it. Chris Levant, Melissa Alford, Morgan Tollier, the heartbeat of our organization. Carlos Salguero, who has now passed, one of the most incredible coaches I've ever been associated with from Argentina. And to my good friend Dave Durr watching today, as my business partner, we will thank him for everything he's done. To a very special person in my life is a man called John McKenzie. He was the head coach at Western Illinois. In 1977, I got a chance to come to America. My mother said, if the opportunity comes, take it. What have you got to lose? I got a phone call from Blackpool Football Club. They said, we've watched you play. We're going to America for 3 weeks. If you take the offer, we'll pay for you to go to America free. That was a heck of a deal. And I came, and we came into the Midwest, into Springfield, Illinois. And I had 2 host families, the Campbell family, who have now moved on, who sponsored me for 3 years. And to Dave and Linda Campbell, I will be ever eternally grateful for the support of me and my family. But John McKenzie, we played, and it was a great day because I scored the winning goal. And he came up, and the first thing he did, shook my hands and said, you're a lucky guy. How would you like to come to Western Illinois? And he said, I'd like to sign you. I said, well, John, that's going to be difficult. I'm just graduated, and I'm not an amateur. John said, okay, I guess that breaks the rules. I did have 2 schools tell me that wasn't a problem, but we won't go into that. But key in my life was that he introduced me with my wife, Lisa. But when I needed a sports internship, I had an opportunity to go to Tampa Bay Rowdies. And I said, I can't get down there. And John McKenzie got me down there, got an internship, met a guy called Gordon Hill, and my life was never the same again. That internship got me back to the university, got me to teach at the university, got me to coach in a very strong Division I program. But at the end of it, it was very clear to me that college and professional was not what I wanted to do. Tireless recruiting, back and forward, changing jobs. I wanted a family. By meeting my wife, that was the decision we made. I was hired by a company in Greenville, South Carolina, Umbro, and my wife moved there, and within 24 hours told me we're not staying. And when we met a man called Colin Phipps in Tallahassee, Florida, he flew us down one day, and I didn't see my wife for 3 days. We spent a week there. I did a master plan for him, and then she told me on the way back that we're expecting our first child and we'll be moving. The toughest day in my life is walking into a job that I loved as a national coordinator and tendering my resignation. That was a tough day. But again, I made the right decision. So I thank these people, but there are also some incredibly talented people that I want to thank that I played against. Because I think the thing I learned the most, the thing I try and get to my student athletes is, you need to learn from the best. You need to appreciate the best. You need to play the top programs. You need to experience it. Let's not talk about experience it. And in the early days, we all take our lickings. We've all done it. But the best way I know to teach young men and young women the competitive cauldron that is required is you've got to experience it. And that's what we've done at McClay. We play the big guys. Because that's what it takes. And that's what we've done. But I want to particularly thank 3 people. Leo is here today, and he's one of the people. But I want to thank a coach that I have the greatest respect for since the first day I met him, and that was Dean Johnson at Lakeland Christian High School. My first day I met Dean Johnson, the guy was competitive, attitude. We had this rivalry from Lakeland Christian. And I remember that day, and he beat us badly. And he came over, and he said to me, Coach, you've got a great team. You coached the right way. We became great friends. I learned so much for him. And the thing I learned from Dean, win, lose, or draw, respect your opponent. Respect the fact that, winning and losing is part of the game. He taught me to respect officials, which in today is more necessary than ever. And he was classic in that, and he did that. I want to thank Leo Madrigal, one of the founding soccer guys in South Florida, and one of my best friends early on, Jim Griffin. Because I go back over 30 years with those guys, and the yeoman's work that they've done in the high school setting is second to none. So thank you for everything that you've done. All great coaches are storytellers. I believe that. You've heard it today. We have a passion. And my wife's circling right this. She's doing this right now. I'm not kidding you. She's doing it right now. She's over there. But I want to finish with a story, a true story. And hopefully for coaches sitting here, you'll relate to this. I've been very fortunate to have some great teams over the years, and it makes coaching easy. Great players make coaching easy. But in the 2016 season, Coach Von Shearer joined us, and for the first time, we didn't have a returning full squad. And about 3 games into the season, we hadn't started well. We had some talent. We didn't really have any senior leadership. And about halfway through the season, it was clear to me that they needed a fresh voice. Because after you listen to somebody for a while, the message sometimes gets cloudy and gets missed. And we kind of meandered through, and Jake had done a great job and had done a lot of social things, and we just worked on it. But just before the playoffs, I went to my assistant coach, Greg Lamandola, who played for me in 1989, has been with me ever since. His kids now go to school. I said, Greg, I've got a task for you. I need help. I need you to go and find me some motivational speakers to speak to this team, just to give them whatever message you want to do. And I said, can you do that? And he looked at me, he said, Coach, I can do that. And his son was in middle school at the time. So in 2016, we embarked on this incredible season. We were not ranked, first time in 10 years. And it was up and down. But there was something in my gut that told me that this team's got something. And we got to the playoffs, and the first speaker he brought in was a well-known doctor in Leon County, Dr. Camps, played football at FSU. And he came in, and in 20 minutes gave this absolutely focused talk about what it means to be on a team, individual responsibility, individual accountability. If you work together, you can beat anybody. We go out in the district game, gosh, I think 7-0. I'm thinking, well, that was good. Let's do that one again. Greg, off you go. So Greg comes in, it's a Tuesday night, we're getting ready now for the district finals, and he brings in a coach, and he brings him over, and we're in the soccer field, and his son's playing basketball and play at the time. He said, bring it in, boys. He said, hey, let me introduce you. This is Jimbo Fisher. Oh, okay, we know Jimbo. And I got to know Coach Fisher very well and learned a lot from him as he watched his son play soccer with us. And he came in, and in a succinct 15 minutes, said 2 things. Don't fret about this winning and losing. Don't focus on the winning and losing. Think about your job. Think about what your role and responsibility is, and you go and you execute. Do your job and execute. Coach, thanks very much. We go out the next day, my gosh, we win 4-0. It's unbelievable. And I'm thinking, this thing's working. I'm not coaching and we're winning. That's good coaching right there. And so I turned around to him, I said, okay, what's next? He says, Coach, I've got somebody, we're getting on the bus to go to the regional semi-finals. And we get on the bus, and he comes in and says, I want to introduce you to Ricky Carmichael, 10-time world champion, motocross champion, 2 children at McClay. I'm like, this is pretty impressive. So here's this guy, he gets on the bus. It was the quickest 3-minute talk I've ever heard in my life. Boys, let me explain how this works. When the flag drops, you turn on the gas, you get in front, and you never look back. Simple message. We go out that day, we go down to Orangewood, and we have no business winning that game. They're ranked number 2, massive crowd. We scored a goal, and hang on. 2 shots to 23 against. That's good coaching. We win. I said, you know what? You've done a great job. What next? Andy Surratt comes in, and he's feeling left out. He's the second assistant. He comes into me one day, and he says, Coach Warner, I've got the guy for you. We go down to the playoffs, and next thing you know, boys, we want to introduce you to William Floyd. William Floyd, FSU football player, NFL Super Bowl winner. William Floyd had watched us play and stuff, and he gave us another 5-10 minute simple speech. Get after them. It's all about time and space. Take their space away, pressure, get forward, front foot, don't look back. He then made a slip up and said, if you get the opportunity, hit them hard. Wrong sport. And we won that game. And guys, I'll wrap it up because I know our time is. So we are now on the road. And so you know, that year, we had a shirt made. Because of the playoffs, we were in the lower bracket. We played away every game. In a 15-day period, we traveled 2,117 miles and played every game away. And I look at him and say, that must have been terrible. It was the greatest thing that could have ever happened. Because coaches, you know what it did. It bonded our team. The relationship, the esprit de corps that we had, interacting was the greatest thing. So I'll finish on a final on the high. You can't get any better than this, can you? Can you? Can anybody in this room guess who our last speaker was to go to the final? And all these people had the children at McClay School. No idea. You should, because he's a standout, went to Florida High School, was an incredible baseball player. They had children at McClay, and his name was David Ross. David Ross had just won back-to-back championships with Boston Red Sox, Chicago Cubs. And David Ross came in, and it was like, wow. Coolest character. Voice came down. Everybody in the room was sitting. Boys, it's like this. It's not over till it's over. You compete, you battle, and you know what? You can win this game in the first minute, but really you're going to win it in the last minute. And incredibly, we beat Naples, who were the #1 ranked team. And again, we scored in the last couple of minutes, we won the game. Long story short, folks, we took a team not ranked, not even on the radar, and in the state final beat Lakeland Christian the year and won the last state championship in 2016. So I finished by telling you that when it's all said and done, we're all here because of our student athletes. The whole reason, the whole concept of the education athletic experience is student athletes. Winning and losing is something in life, but the impact that all and each of every one of us has had has been incredible. And to this day, I think the proudest moment I have as a coach is the relationship I have with my students to this day, and I'll always appreciate it. I'm one of the most fortunate men because I'm living the American dream. Coming from pretty humble backgrounds, had everything, people who loved me, sports coaches who kept me focused, believed in me, were not easy on me, they were tough. But this concept of simply do your best, never give up, believe in yourself. And again, the messaging, somebody to tell you they believe in you, changed my life. So I'm very fortunate, and I'll finish by saying this about high school sports. Why have I stayed with it for 30 years? Quite simply, it's the greatest thing that I've ever done. Because I really believe this. High school sports is the heartbeat of sports in America. I believe that. Okay? Long will it remain so. Because it's the one constant in so many million student athletes' life. We've got to protect it, we've got to expand it, and we've got to go. Well, again, congratulations to my fellow inductees. Thank you all for this great honor. I will cherish it forever. Thank you very much.
Just a reminder to our inductees that after we finish thanking our friends for coming, in about 5 minutes or so, we'll come over here, we'll take some pictures and have some additional gifts for you. Once again, from the coaches here to all you out there, thanks for being a part of this. All these stories are wonderful. We all know that every single coach, every single family has their own story. For closing remarks for Sheldon and Don, Tammy.
Thank you, Mike. On behalf of our executive director, I'd like to say what a great afternoon to celebrate all of our Hall of Fame inductees today. This was an amazing celebration of 5 phenomenal coaches who have touched so many student athletes during their tenure. In closing, I would like to thank a few special individuals who assisted to make this event possible. Mike and Sherry Knowles for their hard work and efforts filling in for Shelton and Dawn in their absence. The Hilton Hotel and staff for setting up today's ceremony, and of course, all of the FACA officers and board of directors from the Florida Athletic Coaches Association. Please stay healthy, stay classy, and I hope you all have safe travels back home. Thank you. And again, as a reminder, if all the Hall of Fame inductees will come up here, we're going to take some photos. Thank you.